If you've been wishing for deeper trust and authenticity in your relationships, looking for better communication skills with your partner, we hope that you'll join us for our latest course, 10 Essential Skills to Building Stronger and Healthier Relationships.
Yeah. Everything that Walker and I do is something that we put energy into, creating it thoughtfully and intentionally. We're very curious about what might be most helpful for people in building healthier skills in relationship. We recognize it's something that we all need to practice time and time again, and know that we're not just talking about intimate partners in this course. We're talking about family, coworkers, friends. We really want to walk through this process of building healthier relationship in all areas of our life. And we hope that you consider joining us. Enrollment opens February 1st, launching March 20th, first day of spring, and the first day of our retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you there.
Thank you.
My Inner Knowing, empowering you to find your compass for the journey. We are dedicated to supporting you to rediscover and trust your natural ability to navigate life each day by sharing insight and experience through the lens of two professional communicators and their guests. We intend to prompt internal inquiry that supports all those willing to explore a unique path. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Good. I've been sick, but I feel like I made some good choices in regards to taking some probiotics and some other things that are helping my body recover from whatever infection it's fighting. So
Good. Yeah, you usually don't get that sick.
no, but I really think I got COVID like 2 months ago, and I think I probably killed off more of my gut microbiome and
Start over.
yeah, well,
Partially.
at least help it out, right? Help it out. So yeah, no, it was a pretty quick turnaround as soon as I did that. So that was really good.
Good.
So better tonight. My mind feels like it's working better. So thanks, babe. Yeah.
I'm glad you feel better.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
I know Walker doesn't know what we're going to talk about tonight. So I told him that I had an awareness during my own therapy session today that I felt would be really helpful, to process through and to, not to assume that I know what was going on for you, but to better understand, what was going on for you. So there has been this, I would say, more active problem for the last year with I don't know, how much can I say? Like in general, can I talk about it like in general?
I don't know what the problem that you're talking about is.
Oh, with my commercial building.
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay. So problem with the property manager.
Yeah. You're not getting charged appropriately for the common area maintenance.
Right. Okay.
I'll help you out with the legal perspective, keep you out of trouble.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's something that I have brought up multiple times over the years, concerns, not often, but when it would come into my attention, I would bring it up, and I just, got brushed aside with the same kind of answer. And there was a part of me that was aware that I felt like that I just didn't know, and so what I was asking about, I must have just misunderstood, or I must have just been wrong about. And so after a few years of bringing it up, it just, shuffled down into a lower priority piece because I just thought I must just not understand. And then there were, some other things over the last 22 years. It's been a long time since I've been in that building, and I do own that building. And, but nothing huge. I mean, overall, I take really good care of the building. And it's just been overall a positive experience. And then last year, a new property manager had taken over, and I got a reconciliation about a year ago that was basically a bill that said I needed to pay a substantial amount more than I had ever paid in the last 22 years. And it was more than I had paid the entire year.
Right. Like 4 times as much.
No, not 4 times as much. For that one particular, it was more than double. Yeah, it was more than double. And so I basically said, and then we didn't receive it. And then I got this email like, why aren't you paying this? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And then, went through it and I was like, I don't owe you for these things. Like this isn't stuff I'm responsible for. I think, I know you're a new property manager, but I don't think you understand that you don't do those things for me. So I don't pay those things for you because you don't do those things for me. I own my own building. I am not a tenant of your person. I own this building. And there was just a lot of pushback. And for me, this process of my understanding being questioned just made me go back like through all of my files. Like, okay, am I misunderstanding something or something that I'm doing wrong? And in that process of going back through everything over the last 22 years, I came across those emails that I had sent years ago asking for clarification on things that I thought I shouldn't be paying for. And that just led into more investigation and more research and more seeking understanding. Plus, then there's an office complex next door, which is actually where we record everything. And for that, I get very detailed information all throughout the year
from
the property management, different property management company, not the same, on everything. And so I then pulled all the information from this building's common area maintenance and compared it to the building next door. Mm-hmm. Again, separate complexes, but right next door to each other. And I was then further surprised at the difference in expenses for properties that are similar but right next door. And so, in an effort to do it well this time and not on my own, I reached out to an attorney that I've known for a very long time to ask for guidance. So, went through it with him, sent him all the documentation. He didn't feel like it would be something that would be that hard to resolve. Felt like it was pretty cut and dry what the problem was, and that we would have a resolution. Should not be complicated. And it has been almost a year with really no progress. We've sent the information, we've made requests, trying to get documentation. Nothing. The property manager, and it was dealing directly with the person who runs the association and who owns the majority of the buildings in the office complex. And so, but again, nothing, no progress. And then their attorney gets involved, no progress. And what we're asking for is not, it's within the, I don't know what you call it. I can ask for it. Like I have the ability to ask for what I'm asking for.
Sure.
Right.
What you've overpaid or been overcharged.
Right. And documentation.
What appears to be intentionally. Mm-hmm.
Right. And in documentation to support that, and I can't get anything.
Right.
And then I actually asked for just an authorization to get comparable, to have someone give me a quote so that I can find out exactly what the cost would be. And I can't get that, just can't get it. And I've made an effort to involve you in this as little as possible, because you don't need one more thing to do. And it's not that I don't ask you questions occasionally, but I've never asked you to like dive in deep into it. And so I really have, I think grown through the process, gotten more clear on what I can ask for. And so within the last month, I have come to a place where I am done being patient about it. And because what I believe is what is being done is wrong. And I don't have any evidence to show otherwise. And I've been asking.
Right.
And I've gotten nothing.
Stonewalled.
Right. Absolutely. Deflective, avoidant. Right. Absolutely. And so within the last month, I sent an email to the attorneys handling it, basically saying that I'm done. And that any emotion in this email, isn't directed towards you. It's directed to the situation where there is a really simple solution that is being ignored. And that if I don't have a resolution by actually today, that I'm done putting forth any effort to resolve it in this way through emails, essentially. And then last Friday, I received an email from my attorney, from the other attorney, basically saying, well, we're going to do it differently going forward. We're not going to charge you right now for anything that you may have owed us in a reconciliation for last year. But there's nothing we can do about the past. And my response, and not only that, but I should be grateful that the person that is supposed to be managing the association and owns the majority of the buildings, I should be grateful for them for what they've done for me. And I was like, interesting. So there was a reaction for sure in my body, and I was very aware that I wanted to respond immediately, but I didn't. I thought about it, wrote a draft, waited till the next day, and actually was proud of myself because I had a ton of work to do in regards to preparing the course that's launching, and I was actually able to do work before finishing the email. And so I was like, look, you can even shift and focus, and the emotion's not, taking you over. And then I finished the email, and the email is very direct. The email is basically saying that, isn't it nice that they have showed some responsibility, but it's not enough. And maybe the attorney doesn't really understand the context of this. But I've been asking about this for at least 7 years, and have been brushed aside. And I know I've spent money on attorney's fees and that thing that I should be grateful for, that she covered the expense on, this large expense that we had, was actually something that I told her was a problem over 10 years ago. And had they dealt with it 10 years ago, the expense probably wouldn't have been so large.
Right.
So, I'm not okay with just accepting whatever you've decided to hand over when these are issues that I've brought up for over 10 years. And I felt like my response was direct and clear and true. And I didn't ask for you to read over it ahead of time. And when I asked you to look at it earlier this week, there was something that happened to you when you read the email. And what I was looking for was, that was awesome. And yes, that's all true. Everything you said's true. Because that's, what I wanted really was like for you to look at it. I want you to be proud of me because I did a really good job. And it was direct and thoughtful and detailed and clear. Mm-hmm. And do you remember what your reaction was?
Nope.
Okay. So your reaction was, well, that was a lot of emotion. And I said, yeah, I know. That's not what I was looking for. And you were like, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I want you to read it. And I want you to tell me, like, is what I said true? I mean, was I not accurate? And so what I know is that when you read it, you had an emotional reaction that somehow got in the way of being able to talk about it. And we got there. I mean, that's not it. But I'm wondering, what was it that you think was happening for you when you read what I wrote?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you thinking?
Well, a lot of things.
Okay, that's okay.
Because you left this as a pregnant pause. Well, what's the conversation going to be about? And I don't want to give you a clue because that'll take
I didn't want you to overthink. I didn't want you to overthink.
Yeah. No. I mean, I don't know.
Okay. Well, what I'm aware of is you focused on the emotion that was in there. Mm-hmm. And so what I was curious about is whether or not, and this is what my, the curiosity came from me today when I was in therapy. And as I am in this place in my life where I am more skilled at being direct, is there some reaction, do you think, that you have to what your body might perceive as my anger?
Well, that's a big statement and a big question.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I'm curious because we've talked a little bit about this, mm-hmm. And so, and I thought, I wonder, because I know that when you read it, I lost you. You were kind of gone when you read it. And then I said that, you said that was a lot of emotion. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, I know. And then I said, well, what about the things that I said? And you were like, I don't know. And then you went back and it was great. I mean, you read it one line and you were like, yes, that's true. Yep. And you read the next line. Yep.
Well, you asked me, you told me what I said was true.
Right.
And so I had to analyze it line by line.
Right, which was great, great. Because that's when we got to what I needed from you, right? But what I know is that your first reaction was to react to my emotion in the email. And so that's what I was curious about. Was it that the way that I said it so direct, I do not care that what he thinks he's giving me is enough. I do not care that blah, blah, blah. So that's what I was curious about. And it's okay if you're not sure.
Well, it's coming.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, at least how I can explain it as I sit here right now. But number one, I put my attorney hat on when I read stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you're going to find an emotional come down when I'm in an analytic mode, not when I'm in a trial mode. Mm-hmm. Okay. because I can go there. And so part of the reaction, I think, is as a professional, when I read something from a client that, is emotional, because there was emotional charge in the letter. My concern at that point for you, because you weren't dealing with me, you were dealing with these other attorneys. She just reminded me to put my hand down so I don't tap the table.
It's something he does when he's thinking.
Well, it's when I talk too.
Yeah.
My concern was that they would have a view of you as being dramatic, overly emotional, and irrational.
Right.
Not assessing the situation from an objective standpoint. But I also know that your current attorneys are not aggressive.
Right.
And that's not, when I do act on clients' cases, especially when I feel like there's been overreaching or delay and obfuscation, because you filled me in on facts as we view them, right?
Right.
I don't, the kindness goes away for me. It's like, listen, this is the way it's going to be. But my concern, part of it, I think, was that they would not see that as a rational analysis of the situation.
Okay. Because
there was emotion associated with it.
Okay. So does that mean that in order for me to be effective, that I can't communicate with emotion?
No.
It's okay. Just asking.
I know it's okay. I don't dictate how you act.
I know. But the concern, even if it didn't trigger you specifically.
Well, it may have. That was the other part of the answer that was coming.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Okay.
Even if it didn't trigger me.
Even if it didn't trigger you, you were concerned I would trigger the attorneys that represent me.
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think so?
Because I get the sense that they think you're not being reasonable anyway. That you're making a big deal out of something that isn't worth the expenditure. And there's relationship with one of them, at least, not deep, but some.
Surfacey, right?
Yeah.
Community relationship.
Right. And some background. So
I should just eat the overpayment.
Well, over the years, I've given clients advice before, if I'm looking at it from just a numbers perspective, I will say, listen, I charge $750 an hour, whatever it is. Back in the day, I've come a long way, but, I used to charge $450 an hour. And I can eat up your dispute in my attorney's fees in a heartbeat before we ever even get to the courtroom.
Right.
Maybe before a deposition's even taken. So from a business perspective, that may not make sense to you.
Right.
So I want you to think about it. And if people were, and this comes from a divorce context, usually when a parent came with an adult child, the parent would be beating the drum in the background, and I would just look and say, listen, I understand. But see the picture over on my counter or on my buffet there? That's my daughter. Yeah. And if you want to pay for her to go through college, we'll go all the way.
Right.
And you may not be happy with the result when we get there.
Right.
Or you may, but the choice is yours.
Right.
That would be the speech that I would give people if I thought that there was emotion overriding a rational decision.
Okay.
In your case, I have no idea what your attorneys are thinking. I get the sense that they view it that way because they're not acting aggressively. Okay. So that's what was going partially through my mind, consciously through my mind.
Right.
Maybe not fully consciously, but that's, I know immediately that that's part of the analysis for me. And that isn't me saying that you're irrational. Does it make business sense to me? Only up to a certain degree, right? And we would have had that conversation had you been my client, which is, listen, we can do X, Y, and Z. Let's come swing. and we'll see what happens next.
Right.
Then you can make a decision if you want to go further.
Right. Nobody has swung for me.
Right.
Right.
Right. But I also know that you're in a point in your life where the business side of this issue takes a back seat.
Right.
And if that's your choice, as long as it's an intentional and rational choice,
Right.
then it's your choice.
Right.
So I want you to understand, I wasn't judging you for having emotion associated with it. That was, they're going to perceive this as an irrational decision-making, part of a rational decision-making process.
Yeah, and maybe so.
Yeah. Right. But I want to be clear. I'm not trying to dictate how you act. And if I tried, what I know is it wouldn't happen anyway. But we don't do that. We've both come too far. Right. Yeah. So did you feel like I was trying to dictate to you? No. The question, the way you asked the question that led to this sounds like you were concerned that maybe I was.
No, it was actually more like, were you triggered by my perceived anger about the situation? Because we've talked about that before.
Sure.
Because that was not the feedback that you gave me. You said, ooh, that was a lot of emotion. And then the conversation was over. And then I said, well, what about what I wrote? That's not what I was looking for. And you were like, what? I'm like, well, did I say it right? You know, or was it accurate? And you were like, I don't know. And I was like, well, I want to know. And then you read through it again. And that's when we went through it line by line. And so that was really my, concern was, were you reacting to the emotion? Because it was like you hadn't read it from anything except that.
Well, I don't know that I was done with saying that's a lot of emotion. I was like, we're done. I'm walking off, I'm done helping you or giving you feedback or whatever. But I think that was my shorthand way of saying that's a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
But without saying, my concern is that these guys will think,
right,
that it's not a rational process.
Right.
That it's an emotional process.
Right.
And they'll discount it.
Right. Tell me more about that.
And from a law perspective only. Okay. Because my fear while we're having this conversation is being cast as like women can't have strong emotion.
Well, this is something that I know is in there for you. It's something we've talked about. And so that's what I'm
that women can't have strong emotion?
Anger.
Well,
that anger is a trigger for you.
Well, sure.
Right.
I was abused as a child.
Right.
By my mother.
Right. So what I'm curious, the point of having this conversation is, I think this can happen a lot in relationship when we're looking for something from our partner or someone else, right? It can be a family member. And then the emotion of what someone's experiencing in that exchange kind of overtakes what someone's looking for.
Well, part of the struggle that I had with it is when we were done with that conversation, you said, well, that's not what I wanted.
Right. Because it wasn't.
And, I hear you, babe, but, my reaction to that is, well, I'm not here to tell you what you want me to tell you.
Right. But I didn't want that.
Right.
I literally wanted to know if the arguments I made were true.
Yes. And when you were direct,
yeah,
you got a direct answer.
Right.
And you said, I wanted you to tell me it was great.
Right. Because I did.
Well,
but it was great.
It was a good letter. If I was writing it, trying to convince those guys, I wouldn't have written it in that emotional tone. But that's you versus me.
But I'm not an attorney.
You're not.
Right.
But there's more to this discussion between you and I.
Oh, yes. Tell me more.
Well, we've had run-ins in the past because you have strong opinions and you're very smart. You've got a huge array of skills and background in law, right? And sometimes it feels like you're second guessing my opinions as a lawyer with 30 years of experience.
Right.
And that pushes on my ego or I'm not enoughness. It isn't that I'm so proud that you can't call into question, but it's like you take a really strong stance, like you know better than me is how I interpret it.
Right.
And I'm not discounting your gut, your intuition and your gut sense and your business sense, all those things.
Right.
But I do know that I've walked down paths that you haven't walked down.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right. Because
sorry. Left that on for you today. I never have my ringer on.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Right. Because I'll say, not in this conversation, because this wasn't part of it. I'll say, I'm not an attorney. I don't know. And so, but that's what I'm talking about is when you just said, it's like I'm pushing back on your ego. And that's not what I was doing. Right. I really wanted your opinion as an attorney about whether what I said was true and accurate. And I wanted you to be proud of me for it being true and accurate. That's what I wanted. Well. Right? And so I hear what you're saying about, I am aware, Luke would say that I have gravitas in my speaking, but I don't always think about it like that, like I don't think I'm communicating in such a way as like, I'm telling you what to do. For me, I'm clear in what I'm experiencing, and I'm fine if you challenge me. Like if you had read that and you would have been like, Theresa, that is not true what you said right there. I would have been like, okay, oh well, next time. Now I know better. But I was curious, again, because of your reaction, if what I had written was bumping up against something for you.
Obviously there's some piece of that, yeah. But also in our interactions, we've had a couple of legal things come up, right? Where I've assisted you with legal issues. Or we're talking about, a client's case or whatever it may be. And what I feel like, to be direct, since you're asking, is, well, I don't know that you're asking, but you're raising the issue, so I'm going to tell you. Is that okay?
Well, I know what you're talking about now. Do? I didn't know what you were talking about before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a stride of what you want to talk about, but it does touch on why my reaction was the reaction that I had.
Yes, and for me, when I go back, that is a completely different place, right? This situation is not that situation.
I'm not talking just about that.
Yeah, but that was something that was about mine. I'm not talking about other things. I'm talking about situations that involve me. And I remember saying to you, I don't fucking care.
I don't remember that. About what? There's some issue. Well, okay. We won't go there. About a legal issue.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember specifically, but
I think I know now.
Okay. Yeah, and then so to me, like that emotion and this emotion, they are not the same. That obviously, right? For me. So there is like in, that, situation from several years ago. Yeah, very different for me emotionally. This situation is very different. I don't feel that. I don't feel helpless or not protected or, misunderstood. Like, I don't like, so when I would say those things in the past, I mean, that was so from my little girl, right?
Sure, that's on that particular thing.
Right.
That's one piece of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I get that. You're right.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, process, I learned a lot. I mean, it wasn't all good, right? I'm not a fan of the legal process for the most part. Because I don't think it's practiced like it could be. And I don't mean you. And I think you are clear. I don't mean you. I've learned a lot from you in all the areas that you step into. And so where I am now, who I am now, how I walk in the world now, as opposed to how I did 4 years ago or 5 years ago or 6. Who do you know me to be now?
I don't know what you mean.
I mean, like, is the reaction that you had something that's, I'm thinking about who Theresa is today and how she's grown today and what her intention is today and where she is about this today? Or am I pulling from things from the past that are informing how I'm engaging with you today?
Well, yeah,
right. And this is what I'm talking about relationally,
yeah,
right?
I know.
Like how we can not be communicating clearly because we're not here today having this conversation with who is sitting in front of me right now. Who is this person that has grown? Who is this person that puts effort into relationship every day? I mean, for both of us.
You did all those things 6 years ago, too.
Anyway, so that's the point of this. Like when we're having conversation, are we having conversation with who you are today? Who I am today?
Well, it's the best, our best effort to do that.
Right.
Because the past informs our behavior, our reactions, our predispositions, all of that.
Right. Patterns and exceptions, right?
Well, if you're aware.
Right.
Sure.
Right. But that's what we're talking about.
Trying.
What is the benefit of doing the work that we want people or are encouraging people to do?
Sure.
Right? I mean, what comes from seeing the person who's in front of me today? What are you thinking?
Oh, that, I don't know. I guess I'm feeling defensive and shameful.
Oh, why, babe?
Like you're telling me that I wasn't seeing you as you are today. That I was prejudging you and it wasn't fair.
But that's what we do, right? I mean, but that's what we're trying to do less of, right? It's not about perfection, right? We don't always do it well.
Sure. This is one of those hard conversations.
It's one of the hard ones.
Mm-hmm.
And we can still do them.
Yeah. I don't know. There's other things that come up for me, but.
Go ahead.
Setting aside the case that you were talking about, I think it's the way that you'll say it sometimes, because you'll question me when I say it's this way. You're like, it can't be that way. And it doesn't feel like it's just like you're effing wrong, buddy, and you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do what I know what I'm talking about most of the time.
I don't think I think that, but go ahead.
Well, that's what goes through my mind. And that is driven by a whole lifetime of my experience, not just with you, right? It goes all the way back to when I was a baby.
Right.
So I can try and try again, to be present. Mm-hmm. I also think that there's a shared responsibility. And I know you're not saying this, but sometimes I feel like partners, and in this case, if you had been more direct with me, do you think this is accurate, what I wrote?
I just thought that's where you'd go. But I can see it. I just thought you were going to be so impressed that you'd be like, wow, that was fucking amazing. I really didn't think that you'd get stuck on the emotion piece. But no, I hear you. I hear you asking for me to be more direct. Right.
As best you can, because you may not have known when you asked what you really wanted.
Right.
You were hopeful that I'd say, that's an amazing letter.
Yeah.
Woof, woof.
Well, I did want that.
Part.
I did. Yeah. But I did. I wanted the factual stuff too. Yeah. Because I didn't want to be, I really didn't think I was overstepping, but I did want that too. But no, I hear you. I want to come back to that. We don't often ask for what we really want, right?
True, and you may ask for what you want and not get it.
Right.
Because when you said, well, that's not what I wanted, you just say, I didn't turn around and say, well, that was the most amazing letter I've ever read. Which I don't think that that's healthy for a relationship, that you say, well, that's what I wanted you to say, and so then I say it to make you feel better and to get out of trouble or whatever it is,
Yeah. No. I wouldn't want you to lie to me. Absolutely not. No, I wanted you to be proud of me, but I really wanted to know. Ultimately, when it came down to it, did I say anything incorrect?
Sure.
Right. And you gave me the feedback, which was good, helpful. Yeah. But going back to sorry, I've been sick. Much better today. I think we already talked about that, but it's still in there. But laughing too much will make me want to cough. Being more specific in what we're needing. What else?
I guess, I don't know. Think through what your reaction will be if you don't get what you wanted. If you're going to ask the question of a partner, then you need to be prepared to take the answer that you got. And that may not saying, well, that's the end of it. Right?
Which I didn't, and you didn't.
No, and I didn't either. It may have felt that way when I said, well, that's a lot of emotion, and I can see that. And I'm sorry if I hurt you.
Oh. Yeah. I don't think it hurt me. It's just what I wanted your first reaction to me. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
I think as a partner, I want you to feel good, right? And it all depends on context too. When I can just tell you, when you put me in the lawyer role, I'm a different person.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Well, that is, and I'm not just a transactional guy. I'm a litigator.
Right.
So,
I know.
There's a fierceness that comes with that. And there's an ego piece, a protective piece, reactive piece. I mean, there's just a lot associated with it, but I hear you when you say, I need you to not draw on, your history with if a woman is angry, how does that impact you? And I think it's important for me to analyze that, to look at it and be able to then see the issue if in our interactions that is part of, where I'm coming from.
Thanks, babe.
Before taking the next step or talking.
What?
No, it's going to take some thought on my part. So what came up in the therapy session for you? Since that's what started all this.
Well, it's interesting because
Walker, that son of a bitch.
it's so funny because you've said that forever. And I'm like, it's not what I think. No, what I think probably happens for most of us, it was a little bit later. It wasn't like right away because I really did want your feedback on whether what I had said was accurate. But it did trigger within me that I had crossed the line in asking too much, for sure. And so even what I'm aware of right now sitting in this chair is even when I shared with you on the drive over here, this is the email that I'm sending on Monday morning.
You got a similar answer, didn't you? Oops.
Even me needing to tell you that was me reaffirming to myself that what I am asking for is not wrong.
Oh.
That I am not being an unreasonable woman in asking, because that's the trigger. When I said to you, this conversation is about growth for me. Remember when I said that? This is about growth for me. It was your reaction then triggered in me that I was being an unreasonable woman. And I can't be angry. Yeah. Knowing you have the trigger about women being angry, right?
Well, men too.
Men too. But that was like, that's what it triggered in me was doubt. Because your reaction wasn't like, that's fucking awesome, then my trigger then is, it was too much. Yeah. Yeah, fascinating, huh? Yeah. So then I had to work through that throughout the week, right? What you're asking for isn't wrong, Theresa. You've been reasonable. You've been kind. You've been patient. You've provided all the documentation. You've been open. You've been willing. Where's the line, Theresa? When do you get to draw the line?
Yeah, what? I'm curious why you have to question yourself about whether you're asking for too much. I mean, we've had that conversation multiple times.
Oh, sure. Well, I just think it's a message that I've received my whole life, for sure.
To be clear, I don't run around saying misogynistic things and saying women are overly emotional and shouldn't be angry or anything like that. No. I'm feeling defensive because I don't want people who watch us to think that that's who I am in the background, because it's not. Does it raise things inside me when you get angry? Yes.
Yeah. If that is
fear.
Okay. Okay, to be really clear, Walker does not do that. This is just us. This is just our internal processes that we're sharing about how complex we are and how messy it is.
Sure.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's both of our. It's like, what do we call that? The trauma dance. Right. That's what this is.
Right.
Your trauma, my trauma, dancing.
Right.
Off to the side of the two of us, trying to have a conversation where I give you feedback on a letter or respond to you talking about sending an email.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What?
You tell me. What else?
I don't know, babe. I don't know that there's anything else. I just thought it would be an interesting conversation to have. Because I was aware of what my shame reaction was, and then the fear that came, and the work that I had to do throughout the week to not back down from the deadline that I set.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have anticipated that. You know, I don't see you that way.
There's a lot that goes on inside of there.
Sure. No.
A lot of processing, a lot of working through fear. What?
It's just not how I see you.
Struggling, questioning, working through
questioning
doubt.
when you get firm on something, it doesn't ever strike me that you're questioning it in the background.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I don't think I couldn't not. I think that's always happening. It's like even though I am very clear what I'm doing on Monday morning, it doesn't mean that sending that email on Monday morning will be easy for me. There will still be a part of me that will struggle a bit with how the attorney that I've known for so long will then he decide that I am somebody that I'm not. Because for the first time in 5 years, he will see me set a boundary around something he's never had to see me set a boundary around, because our relationship has never been that. So then do I become
an unreasonable woman?
Because I said enough?
Does he become an uncaring
No,
man?
He doesn't. Not for me. That's not me. It's not where I go.
Yeah, I mean, but my point is that it's a two-way street. What I would say is, I think it would be helpful to be very direct about, there is emotion for me around this because I feel like I have been wronged and minimized. Not by you, but by them.
I told him that.
Right?
I did.
Clear about that.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to spend more money than I might recover to make my point.
I already said that.
Well, then
Both
you
those
didn't hear you
things.
very well.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago I said both those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if I had a parent have that conversation, I don't know that there was ever a time where they said, I'd love to put your daughter through college. And they were like, oh,
Yeah.
and then it stopped. And that was my philosophy about that type of work.
Sure. So for me, I'm at that point in my life, right?
Yeah.
I have not done anything wrong. I haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
Right.
And if you were overreaching, I don't know how it will all play out. We don't know for sure about certain aspects, and we're not going to get into the details here. But you're not asking for something that's not possible.
Right.
If it was just flat out never going to happen just because it wasn't within the bounds of the law,
Right.
then
That'd be different.
he would be justified in saying you are unreasonable.
Right. But what I'm asking
and
for.
when you're rational and say, I understand from a business decision perspective, this may not make sense, but this is what I want.
Right.
And they're not hearing you, then you've got a problem.
Right. Yeah.
If you hadn't said those things, you would need to.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No,
So
I
he
did.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is part of that the whole point of the conversation, whether it's with me as your partner or some other person, whether it was a female attorney or a male attorney, being very direct about those aspects so they can,
Right.
you're not leaving them guessing.
Right. No, I didn't. I was very clear.
Because the truth is there is emotion around it, and not surprisingly so.
Yeah. Yeah. Different
Yeah.
emotion. It's really, to me at this point, it's a justice issue. It's like, okay, someone is very clear that they're taking advantage of people and an unwillingness to rectify it. And for me, it's like, okay, well, now you've even admitted that what you were doing wasn't the way it should be done, but you're not going to do anything about it in the past. And oh, by the way, be grateful for what they've done for you. You benefited from my mistake. I mean, which I didn't, but that's the story that's being woven.
Sure.
Right? And I'm just not okay with it anymore. And so for me, and I was very clear with the attorneys in a phone call that we had a few weeks ago when I explained to them, the emotion piece, this isn't about you. I'm not upset with you. This is ridiculous that this is continued. This was a simple solution, very simple. They refuse to rectify it. And I'm not just fighting for me anymore. I'm fighting for everybody that this person impacts, for every person that they are taking advantage of. Everyone. And I can choose that. Because it's just not okay. Just run your business honestly. Run it well. I mean, this person has the resources. And they don't do it well in a lot of ways, not just this way. That's what it's about for me. And I understand it doesn't make business sense. And I understand the risk.
I see something in your eyes. What is it?
I think it's just clarity. I think it's important to be clear, but it doesn't mean there's not doubt that comes popping up even if I'm clear. It just means more conversation I have to have inside myself. What?
It's a lot. It's because it's right in what I do, right? And over many years, I did things, and it would be, to me, if you're asking me to carry your flag as a lawyer, but you don't want to pay for it, then I'm reactive. And I think over the 30 years I've done this, there have been times where I have carried the flag just because I felt guilty, even though the person had no intention of having any part of it, any skin in the game, or making sure that I was paid for my time, etc. And so there's a piece of that in this too when I hear you say that. And we all want, well, I don't know that we all want. Some of us reach the point where it's just like, we're not backing down anymore. I'm not just going to turn away. I'm going to, pursue this because I think it's right. And from the attorney's perspective, that's great. Just be willing to pay all the way if you want to go all the way. And that's hard. It's hard to tell people that because, at least I'm in it because I do care about justice. But the business part of it, because I know from experience, you get to the end of that road and the person may still not be satisfied. Let's say you lose and it cost you 5 times as much as what you were owed.
Right.
That's can be a difficult situation.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's you because I don't think it's you.
It's not me.
If you go that direction, you will do it knowingly. And from that perspective, I think it's the right thing to do.
Right. I'm not asking anybody to carry my flag. I'm asking them to do their job. I'm asking them to do what I've been paying them to do, which is to fight for me.
Did I trigger you?
I wanted to be clear that I wasn't asking someone to carry the flag for me. I want them to be my advocate because that's what I hired them to do. I'm sure as an attorney it's hard. Maybe you don't come up against people or, I don't know, have clients like me very often who are willing. I won't have regret if I lose. I won't ask you to eat it if I lose. I know that happens. People want you to take less than what they agreed to. That's not what I'm asking for.
Yeah. Well, if you heard me saying that was you, that's not what I was saying.
No, I don't think that's what you were saying about me. I think it's being clear about what we're accepting the responsibility of. And I think your point is important. Because sometimes we do want other people to carry the flag for us while we sit back and we're not invested in the outcome. That isn't what I'm asking. And it's not what you do. What are you thinking?
That it's a hard conversation.
It is. I was thinking, should this be module 10 of the course?
I don't know. What's module 10?
How to have hard conversations.
I think we're going to need a follow-up. I'm not sure that it's everything I'd want it to be.
It's okay. It's okay. It's just a teaser then. What?
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. I think that, I mean, how I feel is that you have a lawyer thing because you say it a lot, you know? And so there's a part of me that's defensive, probably anytime we interact on legal stuff.
There's been a lot of disappointment. Not about you. And not just attorneys. It's really about, for me, people who have the ability to not sit on the couch, and they do anyway. That's my trauma. It doesn't really matter who it is. Or what their position is. Priests in the church, teachers that I had, parents. I would say a lot of people in authority figures. It's probably one of the reasons that I talk so often about people in positions of authority, about being brave. It's hard to be brave. I think we worry a lot about getting kicked out of the cool kids club.
I'm not in anyone's club.
I don't think I was.
I've been in a club before, but...
I love you.
I love you too.
What?
I'm ready for this one to be over.
Sorry, I don't want to start coughing. Thank you.
It's all the emotion.
For being willing to just keep stepping in to hard things. That's what it's about. Because it is hard anyway. Right?
It is.
Hard conversation, avoiding hard conversation. It's hard anyway.
Yes.
Thank you for being brave.
We are so excited about sharing with you our new retreat, Becoming Unshakable from Self-Doubt to Daring.
Yeah. We love doing retreats. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We really enjoy that group in-person process. Everything that Walker and I create is something that we do with a lot of intention. Every retreat we do is a new retreat. We don't repeat retreats. And so it's always an adventure for us in creating the next one based off where he and I are in our own personal growth journey.
Yeah. We look forward to holding space for you.
Yeah, we hope you'll consider joining us. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to explore life with you. We encourage curiosity, self-growth, and we strive to be more compassionate every day.